Bob Iger, we talked about it a little earlier in the show. Bob Iger was interviewed at this New York Times Summit, I guess. They had some kind of thing where they brought in a bunch of CEOs and interviewed them. And if you didn't know, Disney and like 400 other companies pulled their funding and their advertising from, not their funding, their advertising from Twitter. Because Elon, X replied to a post that was deemed anti-Semitic. So basically the original tweet was saying that the Jewish community have been like not Jewish people, but the Jewish organizations have been funding these like basically Hamas. And Elon just said like, yeah, that's correct. So that kind of started this whole.
Is that accurate? That sounds inaccurate.
If you read the tweet, that's why it blew up. Okay. So Elon came back and like clarified what he meant.
I mean, I know many can be self-hating, but that just seems extreme.
Exactly. That was Elon's point. So they pulled their funding, their advertiser ad dollars.
Okay.
And so here's Bob Iger's response when he was asked about it.
I mentioned X, and we're going to see Elon Musk in a little bit. Mm-hmm. You stopped advertising on X.
We did.
Tell us about that decision.
And by him taking the position that he took in quite a public manner, we just felt that the association with that position and Elon Musk and X was not necessarily a positive one for us, and we decided we would pull our advertising.
So then right after that, the same night, Elon was interviewed, same stage, and he was asked about it as well. Here's that clip.
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob.
It's clear. He then, which is just a Chad move, it was really great. Prior to that, in the actual interview, he clarified what he meant, because when he even said that it was a bad response because he kind of gave all of his detractors a loaded gun because he wasn't clarified, like he wasn't very clear on how he responded. So he actually did clarify what he meant by that tweet. So play that clip.
The Jewish people have been persecuted for thousands of years. There is a natural affinity, therefore, for persecuted groups. This has led to the funding of organizations that essentially promote any persecuted group or any group with the perception of persecution. This includes radical Islamic groups. Everyone here has seen the massive demonstrations for Hamas in every major city in the West. That should be jarring. Well, a number of those organizations received funding from prominent people in the Jewish community. Right. They didn't expect that to happen. But if you generically, right, without condition, sort of fund, if you fund persecuted groups in general, some of those persecuted groups, unfortunately, want your annihilation. And what I meant by that, when I subsequently clarified, is that it's unwise to fund organizations that support groups that want your annihilation. Is this coming across clearly?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, it would be like Jewish people funding Adolf Hitler. It would be, yeah. I mean, look, sorry, but Islamic extremists not great for anybody. I'll just say it.
Right. So in doing so,
you're going out on a limb.
Yeah, I hate to say,
limb.
In doing so, like you're funding,
which is odd because I've
people that want you dead.
All 9 of my children, Muhammad.
Just to safeguard yourself.
Yeah, just in case they come by.
Makes sense.
Mohammed Landau.
But I think that's inherently the problem with social media, and I think Elon is changing Twitter to X and the way that you have more characters, because you can put out a tweet and it can get completely misconstrued, and you can't get a very thought out, clear thought on Twitter. At least you couldn't. Now you can post a whole lot more, but it almost makes society worse because people read something that's super short to a response, and then they can take their own and make their own arguments to it, and then they have their arguments inside their head with you, but it's not you, it's their person inside of their head, and it kind of creates this problem. But I think Elon in that interview, and I would encourage, if anybody doesn't know who Elon is really in depth and wants to get like a sense of why he does what he does and what he does, watch that interview, because it's like an hour and 30 minutes, and he gets really in depth with like his mind and his process and why he does what he does and what he wants for the future. There's a great line in it too that I don't have a clip for, but he says, I'm interested in actually being good, not the perception of being good. Because he sees so many people that pretend to be good while they're doing evil. And when he says that, I think he's referencing Bob Iger and all of these companies that pull their funding because it's virtuous, because it makes them look good, but while they're doing evil on the back end. So before this interview, I had kind of like a neutral stance on Elon. I was like, yeah, he's interesting. He's doing a lot of cool tech things, but he could be a villain. You never know. He's trying to create these chips that go in people's heads. He's doing this massive social media rebranding and trying to take over that and make this X platform that's everything platform, which I think could be a bad thing. Like, I don't think everything should be under this one platform.
How about the Hollywood agents that have fired Palestinians who don't have anything to do with supporting Hamas?
I think that's bad too.
That's involved.
That's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible.
Talk about somebody like Disney when they've tried to talk about being woke and everything else. Well,
they try to say that they're woke. They try to say that we're doing this for social change. Bob Iger said it in his interview. He said, "I don't want to be political. I want to do things that are right and wrong. So I want to do things that are right." But he removes LGBT stuff from his movies when they go to China or when they go to the Middle East. So like, you don't really mean that.
Well, and they also thought in America it was going to be insanely profitable.
Right.
And then when it wasn't, they've tried to make so much stuff that they've jammed down your throat, figuratively, that they've jammed down your throat so that it becomes popular. And that's the problem, is they've done it so radically that people begin to notice that it's like, we know what you're doing and we'd like you to stop now.
It's disingenuous.
Exactly. There's no heart behind it. There's no heart behind a massive corporation like that who has only one thing in mind, which is completely money. And I think Elon makes a good point. Yeah. He is a centibillionaire from scratch. What the hell does he care about a guy who was handed the keys to Disney?